Welcome to local Brew Magazine.
Happy to be here.
I am here with somebody pretty special today, St. Louis's own Old Forester Master Taster, Jackie Zykan. Jackie, how you doing?
I'm good. Really good. We're
Really
good.
good.
We're in Louisville.
Drinking a little
finest.
bit? Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about your job. We're going to talk about what you do in this role.
Okay.
We'll talk a little beer too.
Okay.
But before we get to that, it is a St. Louis magazine. You are St. Louis's own Jackie Zykan. Tell us a little bit about your life growing up in St. Louis.
Sure. So I grew up in Florissant, right, in North County, and was a little Catholic school rat my entire life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Incarnate Word Academy because I know someone's going to ask, where'd you go to high school?
Right. You have to, St. Louis.
Yeah. So my family all still lives there. I go back as much as I can because they don't have thin crust pizza in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know why,
Right.
but I guess I'm going to have to open an emos down here.
That would be pretty cool, right?
That would be amazing. My retirement project.
Yeah. You obviously, when it came to school, you were really into science and things like that. That was going to kind of be your career. That's what you studied in college. But
Right.
you began to bartend, and you kind of found a love for distilled spirits doing that, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. So the original intention, when you have to decide what your entire future is when you're 18 years old was, I'm going to go into medicine. And so I started laying down the science foundation education-wise, but I did start bartending. I had always held like part-time jobs in restaurants. The day I turned 21, it's Missouri, you have to be 21, I started bartending and I loved it. And then life kind of took me in sorts of weird ways and I ended up in Louisville, Kentucky, and there was walls and walls of brown spirits I knew nothing about because when I left St. Louis almost 10 years ago, you had like 3 whiskeys to choose from, right? And that's it. So I came down here and was like, oh my gosh, like how little I know about all of this. And it was just, I fell in love and it was insatiable from that point forward.
So talk to us a little bit about the move to Kentucky and how ultimately what you were doing when you moved to Kentucky and how that then would lead to you getting to Old Forester.
Well, I moved down here for my ex-husband's job. And so I was just kind of here as a wife, I guess. I didn't really have a point in being in Louisville, but here I am. And so to meet people and just to keep myself busy, I got back into bartending. It was just an easy fit. And I would just pick up stuff on the side, shaker for hire things. So I did work with Heaven Hill, with Four Roses, for Woodford, for Jack, for St. Germain, for Copper King's Brandy, just trying to stay busy. And I kind of rose through the ranks with a restaurant group based here and eventually became their beverage director, opening up their bars in all different states. And one day the opportunity came up. I guess Old Forester needed somebody that understood the bar side and the cocktail side as well as the science side. And my mother can be proud I'm finally using these college degrees.
So, and your role today is Master Taster. What exactly does that mean and what does that job entail?
It's a hybrid role between global marketing and production. And so it deals with everything from what goes onto the label, the drink strategy around it, what barrels are going to go into what blends, the quality control of distillate. It's kind of all over the place. But basically, birthday bourbon, everyone knows and loves birthday bourbon. Someone has to pick what those barrels are going to be. And it's not just, here's a good barrel, there's a good barrel. It's do they make sense? So the blending aspect is a huge part of it. But also, what proof is it going to be? How far do we want to filter it? What package is it going to go in? Because not every package can handle certain proof. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. No day is the same. Some days I'm doing things like this with you.
Right.
And some days I'm in a warehouse covered in spiders. And some days I'm in a corporate campus feeling, completely out of place. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place, but it's a great brand to work on. We're a very small team. It's still kind of a small brand. And so it's a nice little family.
I know it can be hard to talk about some of your personal accomplishments. That's always a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But you've been involved in so many cool things, and we're St. Louis proud. Talk to us a little bit about some of the projects that you've been involved with since you've taken over this role and bringing to market things that maybe the audience has tasted but didn't know you were necessarily involved in.
Well, when I started with Old Forester, they had just released 1897. So I am now part of continuing those brands, obviously, but wasn't part of the development of them whatsoever. The 1910 expression, if you had that one, the proof is my fault.
Uh-huh.
You're welcome. Proof to taste. The birthday bourbons for the past 4 years have been proofed by myself and Chris Morris. Even though we fight about it every year, we always come to an agreement. The entire line of cocktail provisions from Old Forester, that's completely my project in and of itself. The price point, the proof point on rye, you can blame me for that one as well. The entire single barrel program, I mean, when I first started, we were doing 15 barrels a month, and now we're up close to 50. And we've got some expansions coming out with that, so that all falls under me. The President's Choice lots that you can get only at the distillery, those fall under me to give to Campbell. Kind of a little bit of a lot of, now that you say it, I'm like, oh man, I've been busy.
You might have to ask for a raise. You start going through the checklist. You're like,
I need a raise.
Right. So, your career is here in Louisville, but your heart remains in St. Louis. So tell us a little bit about that love for St. Louis and the things besides the thin crust pizza that bring you back to your hometown.
You mean the twisted ravioli?
Yes.
No, it's everything. St. Louis is such a great city, and I lived there for 24 years, so it's always going to be home. And it's not just St. Louis, it's Missouri in general.
Right.
So I think Missouri has some of the most beautiful outdoor areas ever. And I actually go back and go camping and hiking and floating quite a bit in Missouri. But I don't know. I don't run into people that I know very much. Like everyone's kind of like dispersed. Some people have stayed. But that's where my family is, so it's always going to resonate as home with me. But it's great because the city has grown so much and developed so much that every time I come back to visit, there's something new to explore. And it's like, oh, wow, we have this now. This is great.
Yeah.
I don't know. This job has spoiled me. I mean, it's a global position, so I've been all over the place. And you come back to St. Louis and you're like, oh, they have that too here? Oh, great. This is awesome. I would move back, but I can't lift the distillery and warehouse and like relocate it. So
when we talk about Louisville, many people talk about the fact Louisville is a foodie town. I don't think St. Louis, at least on a nationwide basis, really gets in those discussions, but it truly is. What are some of your favorite maybe neighborhoods to go to, some of the local restaurants, or favorite types and styles of food to eat in St. Louis?
Sure. So I'm going to say thin crust pizza. Sure. I talk about thin crust pizza more than I talk about whiskey. Like it's insane. But I think what St. Louis has going for it is that let me back up. Louisville is a great foodie town. There's a lot of independent restaurants here. It's great. It's this like nice little culinary oasis. And I think that exists just as heavily in St. Louis. It's just more spread out. And so you don't think of it in that concentrated form and just like plot it there. But there's so many family-owned restaurants in St. Louis and so many old school restaurants in St. Louis that are non-chain that, it's kind of like that's your neighborhood. That's where you grew up. You always are fond of places like that. There's a few places in Florissant that still, I don't know. And like, is it like a Michelin star restaurant? No, but it's home. You know what I mean? So like it's so much more important that way. But I mean, I will always go back to Old Town Donuts in Florissant. I will always go to Fritz's, the original one in Florissant, that one. This BJ's Pizza is like on the corner. BJ's Pizza. If you haven't, just do it. Just trust me. It's sick. I have a really sick obsession with St. Louis style pizza. Like I try to remake it here, and I just can't do it.
There's something. No, maybe it has to be made.
It does.
In the shadow
something
of that
about
arch.
The air there. Yes, exactly. But I don't know. There's so many great little neighborhoods in St. Louis and tucked away spots that I don't think people give enough credit.
Yeah.
They'll start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that everyone else is a foodie too, like yeah. But I hope they never change.
Most important question that I'll probably ask you today.
Yeah.
Can the blues repeat?
I'm not saying they can't.
Okay.
But I don't know if they will, and I don't know. No,
I'm confident.
You know what? I don't care if they do or not. I still love them.
And how great was that run that they went on last year?
Well, earlier in the season, though, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I know. I went to quite a few games and still love them. Still love them. They could not win a single game all season for like 10 seasons in a row. I will still love them.
Okay. They lose game number 6 in St. Louis. You think they got to take care of business. They're up 3-2. They lose game number 6 in St. Louis and get killed, by the way. They got blown out off the ice. They have to go up to Boston to win game 7. How did you feel going into that game about that one?
Well, it's interesting because someone that I work with is from Boston, and so we had a nice little spell together there. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't think you have to be at home to make your win that much more impressive at all. I do think that there is a significant difference between St. Louis hospitality of their fans and Boston's fans, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I don't know, like you see the love never stops because then everyone just goes to watch the game anyways on a screen, but they're all together and the energy is still there. So I don't know. I don't want to get too biased about any of it. All I'm saying is I love the Blues. I've always loved the Blues. They can do no wrong.
Did you go to the parade?
I did not because I was here.
Oh, that's
Actually,
good.
no.
It was fantastic.
I was coming back from
the best
Scotland.
thing.
I
Yeah.
watched that final game on an iPhone in the lobby of a hotel in Aberdeen at 3 a.m. and celebrated. I had just bought these brand new boots for that trip and they were expensive and I was so proud of myself for being an adult. And someone on that trip with us poured her Budweiser into the boot and drank out of my boot to celebrate.
Really?
And she was from Boston. And that was a win for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except now my shoe smells like beer. Whatever.
So our magazine is Local Brew Magazine.
Yes.
First of all, are you a beer fan?
I am, of course.
Okay.
I'm a very diverse imbiber.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the St. Louis beer scene. What do you like? I mean, obviously we have largest breweries in the world around there. We got a great craft scene. Where do you fit on that scale? Are you kind of into a little bit of everything, or?
I'm into a little bit of everything. I am. I never got super into the whole like hoppier the bigger the better, like the weird hophead movement that happened. I was never that. My taste buds are, this is going to be the most pretentious thing that ever comes out of my mouth, but I have a very sensitive palate. And so super bitter beer is like the most like intense thing for me. So it's just not fun for me.
Right.
But I love everything. I think some of the local breweries, some of the, now, I mean, they're not so small anymore, but some of the local breweries in St. Louis, hands down, put them up against anybody else. Yeah. Yes. I have a favorite. Am I allowed to say a favorite?
You can say, as far as we're concerned, yes.
Okay. Urban Chestnut is my favorite brewery, hands down, 100%.
Absolutely.
Because in the time where everyone was just exploding and doing nothing but ales, they were actually doing lagers, and that is so impressive because in such a competitive landscape, if you're going to invest the extra equipment to do something that's not just going to be able to ferment at whatever temperature, I applaud you. Urban Chestnut.
So we're here at your office today, Old Forester.
Yeah.
It's a big year coming up here. As we end up 2019, 2020 is a huge year for you guys, big birthday year for the company that makes birthday bourbon. So tell us about the anniversary that's coming up.
Sure.
And what kind of special things are going to be going on next year?
Right. So we started in 1870. Old Forester has legitimately been for sale for 150 years. Like you've been able to buy a bottle, even during Prohibition. So that's a massive accomplishment. But it's the same family owning it the whole time. That's an even bigger accomplishment. They never gave up. So, of course, all of Brown-Forman is technically turning 150 because the company itself is, but it's special for Old Fo because we're the ones that started it all. We will have some celebratory products coming out. The press release hasn't gone out yet for them though, so I can't say exactly what they are. Okay. But we will have things coming out that you've never seen before from Old Forester, and blending practices that you've never seen before. This is actually my first falls completely on me blend in and of itself. So we'll see. Oh my God, it's so nerve-wracking. But it's all 100% falling on me to decide all the barrels in this batch going into 3 different things.
I may leave this interview and go get in line. Just sit outside the door so I make sure I get a bottle of this.
Middle of the year, you'll start to see stuff trickle out into the market. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than that though. Because you can celebrate your birthday and put a sticker on every bottle, and you have to. Marketing says you have to. But we've actually taken a lot of our budget to celebrate this year and put it into more interesting programs. As opposed to having a big fancy dinner to celebrate ourselves, we're investing more into our oak research and things of that out here right around Louisville, Kentucky at Bernheim Forest. Because it's been 150 years, but we want to make sure we've got another 150 more going. And so oak is obviously something very, very important to the bourbon industry. So we're actually investing quite a bit back into that, sort of a pay it forward.
Final question for you.
Yes.
What does the future hold for you personally, Jackie Zykan, as well as the Old Forester brand?
The future of Jackie Zykan. Who knows? I mean, 5 years ago, I didn't think I'd be sitting here doing this.
Talking to me or just
talking to you or talking to anyone? Camera in my face. You're doing this job. I didn't know I was ever going to be in Kentucky.
Right.
Obviously, I think we can say that I can't leave Kentucky.
You can't. No.
What you can't see in the frame is the chain around my ankle
that's
keeping me tied here. But I do have some development steps, so I will not remain master taster forever. Somebody else will be coming in, and I will be doing other things. But it will be Old Forester. And I don't know. from now, it's just kind of like I'm in a good place with a great company. I think I'm finally comfortable, like not setting my world on fire and starting over with something else. I think I'm good to just kind of ride it and see what happens. I'm happy. So we'll see. I don't know. I know it's like the most like vague, not specific. There'll be things coming in the future that is not now.